babies are at risk of a nasty condition called necrotizing enterocolitis, which can completely damage the bowel. They're also at risk of serious infections, which can be fatal. And often those are the mothers who, although they may be very motivated to produce breast milk, sometimes because they've had preeclampsia or they're on drugs which are not suitable for the baby, or just because they've been really ill and stressed, they can't actually produce enough milk for their little baby. And those are the babies for whom a breast milk bank may be a complete lifesaver. And many years, well, worldwide, there are a huge number of milk banks. Breast milk banking is incredibly popular all around the world, and it saved the lives of many, many babies in numerous countries. And in the UK, it was pretty standard a while back, and I think there were around 70 milk banks in the UK in the 1970s and early 80s. And then HIV came along, but also there was a body of research suggesting that preterm formula was good for preterm babies because it made them grow. But what people realised subsequently is, yes, they grew faster, but they had a higher risk of this necrotizing enterocolitis. But by that time, a lot of the milk banks had closed, and I think from 70, they were down to about 12 in the UK. And in fact, one of the survivors was Southampton, so I have moved to a zone where there is a milk bank, so I now have first-hand experience of working with a milk bank. But anyway, they kind of was a bit of a decimation of milk banks, and gradually people have been reopening them. And I think Southmead will be the 19th or 20th now in the UK, so there are not as many as there were. But you know, I think also now there's much more rigour paid to the details of testing the milk for bacterial infection, pasteurising to set standards, tracking of the donor milk and things. So it's maybe a little bit more of a laborious procedure to re-establish a milk bank in our sort of health and safety conscious age. Anyway, I think it is a wonderful achievement, and as Anne said, many people have given time, money, commitment, enthusiasm, and it's really a result of everybody's input that this is now being achieved. But I just want to mention one other person. When I started in Southmead as a consultant in 1996, I almost immediately had a letter from Professor David Baum, who's Professor of Child Health here in Bristol, saying, "Great that you appointed Alison, we must do something about getting a milk bank back at Southmead." David was one of the people who actually pioneered for pasteurisation of human milk and worked with the Sterifeed company to develop the milk pasteuriser. And he had come from Oxford, which also had one of the surviving milk banks when they all closed down. And David was a great advocate of breastfeeding and of the use of donor milk for preterm infants. Now, some of you may have known David Baum, who's Professor of Child Health here in Bristol. He was also President of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health. And one of his, I suppose, driving forces was to try and bring about world peace through child health. And he was actually doing a bicycle ride to raise money for children in Bosnia. And he had a heart attack and died, age 59. So it's a huge loss to paediatrics, both in Bristol and nationally. And so I have framed a photograph of David. It's wrapped in bubble wrap, but we'll take the bubble wrap off. And just said that this is in memory of David, because it would have meant so much to him to have opened a milk bank here at Southmead, and I know, it just would have meant an awful lot. I had mentioned it to his wife Angela, who lives in Bristol. Unfortunately, she couldn't come today, but she was delighted to hear that at long last this was going ahead, and I think she would like to visit sometime. I think she also might have found it quite emotional to be here, because it was one of David's real babies in paediatrics. But anyway, I would just like to say congratulations to all of you. I hope the milk bank will go on to support many sick and preterm babies, because of course Southmead is a special centre for the most tiny and vulnerable babies, and I'm sure it will make a huge difference. I would say that at Southampton we have virtually no necrotizing enterocolitis in our inborn patients, because they either get their mother's breast milk or if they can't produce, they get donor breast milk. So I think there's still a need for research into the use of donor breast milk, and I hope that as Southmead opens the milk bank, if research projects come along, this will be another centre where that will be welcome. But I think the bottom line is breast milk is best thing for babies, and if mum can't produce, then donor milk is the next best alternative. So all the very best to everybody.
Thank you very much.